Hello, I'm Simulated Erk, and welcome to another episode of Simulated Erk, Rail Simulator, Train Simulator, call it whatever you want, but that's what it is, Simulated Erk, Train Simulator. We are at Queen Street in Glasgow. We're about to operate a Class 170 Scot rail service from Glasgow to Edinburgh. Basically doing the trip in reverse that we did on the last episode with the train from New Zealand. That train, great train, not designed for that task. Let's see how we go with this train. This train is designed for this task. We're just loading our customers up now. Queen Street platform number 6. So we'll start to see some more trains because this is actually a scenario rather than a quick drive with the previous couple of episodes, because there's no scenarios or no career mode for that New Zealand model. Anyhow, the doors will be closing shortly. We are preparing for an imminent departure, and we are about to set off on our journey towards Edinburgh. Okay, we've got our indicator that doors are closed. A little bit wet, as is often the case in Scotland. So we're just building the revs, just taking our time just to take off here. Only got a caution signal with a route indicator on it, so it's only a 15 mile an hour zone. So no great hurry as we go through this tunnel section. There's a 30 zone right in front of us, and then immediately after that is a 15 as we'll be going through the turnout. So we'll get our train through the turnout, no rush at this point. 21 miles is our next stop at Falkirk High. So we do have a scenario running on this example. We'll wait for the train to get out of the tunnel and wait to clear the 15 mile an hour zone. Probably don't need the wiper on in the tunnel. I often do forget about that. Depends on the length of the tunnel. If it's only a short tunnel, well, there's no point really turning it off to turn it back on again. If it's a long tunnel like this one, well, yeah, it's a fair point. So a little bit more power in the tunnel. We're in the 30 zone now, so we can let the train come up to speed. A long express run ahead of us. Don't need to go to max power straight away. Diesel multiple units. Sounding pretty sweet in this long tunnel. Can get pretty smoky in here, I could imagine. Oh, now the signal's just cleared to green ahead of us, so we can open up the throttle a little bit more. It's hanging back from that signal, wasn't sure if we were going to get some greens. So we do have something in front of us, don't know exactly what at this stage and how far it is away. 40 zone coming up as we about to hit daylight again. While we turn the wipers on while I think about it. Bit of horn coming out of the tunnel. some more yellows coming up, so we'll acknowledge the AWS, the automatic warning system, letting us know that the signals aren't fully clear. Train in the opposite direction, give old mate a wave. So the yellows continue, it's not red, so that's a good sign. You know, it's not green, it's not fully clear. The rain's disappeared for the moment. Still got our 2 yellows. So no need to get overly excited at the moment until we hear and see that we've got a green signal ahead of us. I'll bring the camera down a little bit. Very detailed looking cab. I don't think I've actually driven this train before. Do have a signal coming up. We're just waiting to see, get a little bit closer to it. Just might just bring off the power a little bit, and then if we need to, we can start to brake. But if we don't need to, well, we can power up. Now on these curvy sections, especially if you don't have the road knowledge, it can be very hard, or at night from a distance, to see which one of those signals is actually yours. The AWS hasn't told us that it's fully clear, so we have to acknowledge it again. Now it's gone clear. Next time we pass over the transponder, we'll get a different tone. I wish I had this. So we should pass over this transponder now and get a different tone once we pass the signal. And that warning should go out. Maybe it has to go one more. But we definitely did pass that green signal. As I said, I'm no safe working expert when it comes to British trains. But it's looking pretty sweet for us now. $50-mile-an-hour zone. We're doing 40 at the moment. Okay, the AWS has told us that we've got a clear signal, and the warning on the dash has gone out. So 85 coming up. We'll just bring back the power a little bit. We'll just make sure we hit the 85. Then of course we have to make sure that the whole train is clear before we do start doing the 85. If you saw the last episode, you'll know by this point that a lot of the time the train just ran in full throttle, because it wasn't built for this sort of high speed. This train's not a high speed train by any stretch of the imagination, but it's higher in speed than, because it's built for this task. So more green lights for Homer J. 100-mile-an-hour zone coming up, so we can open the legs, stretch the legs a little bit. Just over 18 miles to go before our first stop. Beautiful day after some rain in Glasgow at the start of this trip. Don't have to worry about stopping here, don't have to worry about braking, don't have to worry about the speed limit because we're nowhere near it. And there is 100 coming up, so we can just keep the throttle open. Seems to have died in the arse for some reason. have we hit top speed? That will be an interesting question. Just on 80 miles an hour at the moment in a 100 mile an hour zone. So I'll just keep the throttle wide open. Still got about 17.5 miles to go before our next stop, so that's no great concern. Her AWS is indicating that we've got all green signals ahead. So we can just keep the throttle open, and now is actually a good opportunity to look outside and see the train in its natural habitat and have a look at the entire train. It actually looks like a mixed set. We've got rail livery at the front and first group on the back. We'll have a look here as we're passing another train. Now we're able to stretch its legs a little bit, coming up to track speed now, so now's probably a good time just to throttle back. Lots of different identities for lots of different train operators over the years in the UK as operating contracts etc. change, groups and rail operators change their identities. As we saw in the last episode, lots of great looking scenery. Another train coming in the opposite direction. Our speed's dropped a little bit, so we'll apply some power, 100% throttle now. Still powering along with 14 miles to go before our next stop. So it's a great opportunity on Train Simulator just to go outside and have a look at the scenery and have a look at the train running through it. So time to throttle back a little bit now. Don't want to lose all of our momentum, but we don't want to go over the speed limit either. Speed's starting to drop a little bit. We'll just put a little bit more into it, and it's starting to rain again. Although at this point it more looks like a sun shower than anything. So we can just bring back the power a little bit. Approaching the 100 mile an hour mark, which is track speed here. Nice big long stretch of 100 mile an hour. Still 10.5 miles to go before our next stop. a noticeable difference in speed, and also no doubt for the passengers' comfort. Speaking of the passengers, let's have a look. See if we can go inside and have a look with the passengers. I don't know if we can on this particular model. Doesn't seem like we can. We'll go a different view for a moment. Oh, he's very nicely dressed with his tie and the destination indicator there at Edinburgh Waverley via Falkirk High. Looking very pleased with himself as he's driving his Class 170, nearly 100 miles an hour. I'd be looking pretty happy with myself too at that speed, just quietly. Driving this nice train at that speed down this nice straight stretch of track, I'd be rather happy with that too, just quietly. So we'll keep the power on. Might just need to throttle back just a tad. Just bring it back and hold it a little bit. Yeah, I'd like to be able to show you outside, but I can't. Oh, that's freaky. See another train coming the other direction like that. Our speed's starting to drop again. Could be a slight change in gradient. Still a very light smattering of rain, even though there's lots of blue sky around. We'll back off the limit again as we're approaching 100 miles an hour. It's about 160 kilometres an hour. Five miles to go before our first stop at Falkirk. We've been pretty good, sticking close to the speed boards, so we should be pretty close to time when we arrive, just depending on how I manage the approach. We can still keep this speed up for a little bit longer before we need to start slowing down for the station. Of course, keeping in mind that this is the first time that I've driven this train and the first time that I'll actually be coming to a stop with it from speed. So we'll see how we go. Don't be surprised if I come in somewhat cautiously. 3.5 miles to go now before our first stop. Actually, we can probably afford to bring back the power significantly. Basically just cut the engine power off by half there. Of course, in real life you'd have expert training, landmarks, the benefit of experienced drivers alongside you to tell you when you should be when you should be braking, when you should be shutting off, all of that sort of thing. 2.5 miles to go now. Probably just, whoops, not necessarily brake yet. It's just hard on this keyboard and mouse just to find this sweet spot. Speed is coming down nicely. Probably need to give it a helping hand. We should just jump in the back in the cab and have a look at the amount of water on the screen, because I hadn't been wiping it because we'd been looking outside. We will start to brake now. 1.5 miles to go. Start to bring the speed down slowly to start with. Probably want to be hitting the platform doing about 25-30 miles an hour at the most, I would say. As I said, I've never used this train before. I've never stopped at the station. So we'll see how we go. Speed limits aren't an issue. We'll probably just take the brakes off at this point and just roll in. 35 miles an hour, still decent to come in. Mile to go before the station. Signalling not an issue. Speedboard's not an issue. Track is wet, so need to take that into account. Although there's no fresh water on the windscreen now, which helps. Under a mile to go now, so we'll start to put on a little bit more brake. We'll just roll off it, just let it roll in a little bit more. 30 miles an hour, still decent. You know, you just don't go to get to this point 100 miles an hour and then decide, oh gee, I need to brake there and be there in half a mile. Not the way it works. So I'm probably coming in a little bit too slow. I'll just accelerate the process just a little bit. Should be able to see the station shortly. Of course, it depends on how much platform we have to work with as well. It's a relatively long train. Visual on the platform now, so we'll bring our speed right down. Probably too slow. Not ideal, but I'm not going to go out the other end either. Yes, old mate's looking at his watch. You could be perfectly on time and people will still look at their watch. And so we've got a 3-car marker there. That will probably do us. We'll open our doors, we'll have a look. How are we going at the other end? The last set of doors just on. As I said, I'm not 100% sure of the car markers in this situation. Dare say they've got selective door opening as well, which probably helps. I probably could have gone up further towards the end of the platform. No specific car marker by the looks of things. If you've got a 3-car set, maybe a different story. Successful stop. Timeliness bonus, nice to see. Doors are closed. Brakes release. A little bit of throttle to start with. just over 3 miles before our next station, so we have a 95 mph speed board just ahead of us. Probably won't necessarily get that high. Big tunnel coming up. We can start to build our speed now. It's not the loudest horn known to man. That's better. That's like a country horn. Yeah, I do like that. What Microsoft, rather Train Simulator, calls bell on this occasion. Just under 3 miles to go before our next stop at Polmont. Don't really need to worry about the 95 mph speed board, because we probably won't make it by the time that we need to start braking for the station anyway. So in this situation, academic, but if you weren't stopping there, say if you were even more express than this train is, or if you were empty cars, well then of course you would have to worry about it. Green signal ahead, let's continue. It's coming up to 2 miles to go now before the station. Still 60 miles an hour, which is not bad. Acceleration seems pretty good. Another train coming in our direction. Hey mate, only a small one, 3-car unit. About 1.5 miles to go now. We'll bring the power back. We'll probably bring back too quickly. We can again finding that sweet spot now. On a clear signal ahead, which is great and all, but we need to stop at this station coming up, so we can't get too distracted by that green signal as we start to bring our train in nicely for Polmont. Probably don't quite have the timing yet. Having said that, not too bad for someone who hasn't driven this train or this route and has never actually driven a real diesel train in real life, so about 1/2 mile to go now. Probably won't want to be going much faster by this point. Another green signal. As I said before, well and good, but don't use that as a sign to speed up at this stage when we're preparing to arrive. 1/2 mile to go. Should have a visual on the station in just a moment, just after a bridge, I presume. So we'll bring the power back down now. Got visual on the arrival end of the platform. Let's start to brake. Coming in nicely. Long platform to work with. Better to get most of your braking done at the arrival end if you've got a long platform to work with. So they actually do have a 6-car marker for us this time. So we will go up to that 6-car marker. Didn't quite judge it that perfectly. Didn't really want to have that second dive. We'll open the doors. How are we going at the back, old mate? Beautiful. How much room have we got? Yeah, that's pretty good. Bit slow, but better to be slow than hanging out the other end and, you know, sliding halfway to Edinburgh. Successful stop. Little lift go. Waiting for the buzz buzz. Now the light's on, so we're sweet. Learned that in a different episode a couple of episodes ago. So Lynn Lithgow in 4.69 miles. Nice. So more chance to stretch the legs. 90 mile an hour zone. Now we can let the 6-car unit move and have a decent opportunity to bring it up to speed before we need to stop it at Lynn Lithgow. Green light, audible warning, certainly appreciated. So 4 miles to go now, still plenty of time. We're just over 50 miles an hour in a 90 zone, increasing to 100. Don't have to worry about the speed zone yet as we're nowhere near the actual speed, so we'll just keep the power in, keep the power on for the moment. Don't even have to wait for the back of the train because we're still well and truly under either 90 or 100, so we'll just keep on motoring with the throttle open full. Rain starting to return. So just on 2 miles to go now, approaching the 100. We've got a 90 zone coming up. We'll start to take the power off for the station though, and we do have restricted signals up ahead, hence that rather loud warning. So we'll start to bring the train speed right down. We may have caught up to a train ahead of us. So that's coming in nicely. So we'll just let it roll there for the moment. we'll get an indication shortly on the status of this next signal. It's green, so we're sweet. But having said that, wave to old mate coming the other direction. You could be tempted to pick up the power again and try and get to this 90 board. We're just over a mile away from the station, so there's no real point. And I might sound like I'm repeating myself, but this is what constantly does go through your mind. It's like, okay, well, you know, I've got a clear signal, sweet. We do have something ahead of us. How far that is away, I don't exactly know. But the most important thing that I do know, the track ahead is clear. I do know that. But we have a station now coming up in about half a mile. So I should start to brake. We'll see how we go with the timing for this one. Speed coming down nicely, 40 miles an hour there. It is raining, so that wouldn't help in the real world. So I'd rather have to apply this little bit of power at the end. Again, tempting just to open the throttle, but there's no point of really doing so at this stage. Okay, should be able to see the station shortly. Okay, there's the station. So we'll just bring the power right down. A little bit of brake. We do know we've got we should know we've got a 6-car platform to work with. Yellow line for a reason, buddy. Yes, you. We need to bring up the power again. We came in too slow then, but look at old mate here. Yellow line's not there for decoration, buddy. Yes, you. Lucky I wasn't an express coming through here, buddy. We need to go up just that little bit more for the 6-car mark, so the back of the train's on. So our trains there is nicely on the front and nicely on the back. Well, this is interesting, having a look at the back car. They have done some branding changes, but it's certainly not like the unit on the front. Okay, Haymarket next. Time winner's bonus, so we're still on time. Sweet. Let's have a look at our indicator. Our indicator is good. Look at the amount of water that's come on the screen just in that short time we were at that station. Haymarket next in 16 miles, so we can open up the throttle again. What have we got here in this? What have we got here in the siding? Got a freighter. That's very interesting. Let's see what he's got on the front of it. You don't see many freighters when you're running a passenger service on here. So he's waiting for us to pass, and then he'll probably follow us. Must do some more freight routes. Haven't done a lot of freight routes actually. Must do some. Little bit of water on the windscreen, not that much. We'll leave the let's have a look at the front of the train. I've hit the wrong button. I've hit the lights instead of the wipers. Oh, that view won't do us. Well, that one won't be much better. Wipe some of that water off now. We're actually in cab view. So, need to keep an eye on the speedo. We're coming up to the 100 miles an hour mark. Now, our target speed is in red there, 100 miles an hour. We're coming up to a 90. We'll see if that red marker actually moves. I believe it should, but then again it depends on this model. Sometimes what happens in real life doesn't necessarily always happen on this game or on Train Simulator. '80 zone coming up, so we'll take the power off a little bit. Take it right off. Just fractionally over. Well, not fractionally, actually, a little bit more than fractionally. I thought it was 90. It's actually 80. So no, the red marker hasn't moved. So maybe that's like the maximum service speed. Still 11 miles to go before our next stop at Haymarket on the approach into Edinburgh. It's really weird. I was actually I was in Edinburgh a few years ago, and I hadn't planned it this way, but I was actually there at the same time that the Edinburgh Fringe Festival was on. So that was quite an experience. Oh mate, coming the other way, hello. 90 zone, just wait for the rear of the train. We can pick up our speed again. Yeah, it was a really interesting experience being in Edinburgh for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I saw some great comedians there. The main one who still stands out to me all those years later, and I'm sorry I can't pronounce his name, he's actually Japanese. If I had his name in front of me, I probably could give it a go. But I'm driving a simulated train right now. But he's very energetic. Did the show in English, which is a big deal for a Japanese comedian. I found in my experience and you know, doing some research and things, that there's a lot of Japanese people who, it's a whistleblower there, who may know English but don't necessarily want to use it in public because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing. They don't like failure. They don't like saying the wrong word, or you know, using it in the wrong context or whatever. So in many situations they'll just won't do it. But then again, I've heard that some Japanese people really love the opportunity to try and speak English to foreigners and you know, practice their English. I actually thought that it was taught and used a bit more widely than it actually is. When I was last there in 2014, still very much a cash-driven society. We can open her up now, it's back up to 100 zone. Very much a cash-driven. You think of all the technology that Japan has, and how high-tech the country is, but when it comes down to money and currency, cash is still king. I don't know if that's changed in recent years. There has been some change. There's even been, I remember on my couple of visits there, and things have improved, but there was some ATMs that you could only use Japanese cards in. If it was an overseas bank, you wouldn't be able to use the machine. So I found that the best place to get money out of an ATM in Japan, especially in Tokyo, were the 7-Elevens. And the further you got out of Tokyo, I'll bring the speed back down, the further you got away from Tokyo, the harder it was to get money, and the harder it was to find Japanese people who would speak English. 5 miles to go now before Haymarket. No need to bring the speed down just yet, but no real need to accelerate more than what we actually are. Alright, 4 miles to go now. Green light so far all the way to Haymarket that I can get an indication of. Little bit of rain on the windscreen, not much. Having said that, love Japan. There is a new Japanese pack out on Train Simulator. I'm just waiting for it to be a little bit cheaper. $56 Australian for something which is pretty similar to what I've already got. I think I'll wait for it to be on sale a bit, especially considering the amount of money I've already spent on Train Simulator and Train Sim World and whatnot. 90 coming up, we're comfortably under that. About 2.5 miles to go now before Haymarket. Let's see if I can come in a little bit harder this time. Of course, that would also depend on what the signals are doing. 2.3 miles to go. I think we'll shut off at about 2 miles to go. 90 board, we're underneath that, we're comfortable there. 2 miles to go, we'll bring the power right off. Again, hard to find the sweet spot. We'll just coast in now for a little bit. 1 3/4 miles. Mile and a half. You really got to think out in advance when you're going to start braking, and of course in the real world, landmarks and things help greatly. And of course too, it doesn't matter how good a simulator is. AWS, so I should start to slow down even further. And we do have a 40 board coming up just before the station, which will come under nicely. Signal's clear, but there's no need to, we'll just release the brakes, let it roll a little bit. So we did have to slow down a lot there because we did have signals coming against us, but they cleared. Depot on the left. Yeah, HST coming on the left there. Okay, should probably bring the power off now. See how we go. Coming into Haymarket, getting into some sort of rhythm now. We're comfortably under the 40. I've dropped speed too much. We'll just throttle in slowly. Haymarket longer platform. There's a 3-car mark. 6-car mark will be up near that signal. Oops. I came in. I just put just that little bit too much brake on. No harm done. So looking good here at Haymarket. We're almost at Edinburgh now. Okay, doors should be ready to close shortly. Okay, Edinburgh Waverley next. So just over a mile, running through some tunnel, not majorly high speed for this sector. So we go through the tunnel. We've got a 35 coming up and then a 20. We're on a 40 at the moment before we can cruise into Waverley platform 14. So between the last episode and this episode, we've basically done a return trip from Edinburgh to Glasgow and back, which is pretty cool. Okay, 35 coming up, so we will drop the speed. Okay, 35 coming up there. Turn our wipers on. 20 now. So we'll bring the speed down nicely. Overall, I think we've got a 15 coming up. No, was that it? No. Didn't want to stop. Again, it's a judgment and feeling thing. Getting ready to come into our final stop. Overall, it's been a pretty good run. It's been a little bit challenging without, being headache inducing. Any day that you arrive at your destination safely is a good day. Any day that you arrive at your destination safely without having a headache and without being mentally stressed and feeling, yeah, I did a good job, is even better. So nice long platforms here at Edinburgh Waverley. So we'll just crawl in now. Two beautiful cities, both Edinburgh and Glasgow. Highly recommended, would buy again. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this route and then the two different diesel trains that we've had, the real thing and the simulated real thing and the simulated unreal thing for the actual route. So we'll bring it down, right down, right down, right down, right down. And we're good. So we have arrived at Edinburgh Waverley. Hang on, I'm just trying to adjust the camera. There we go. We have arrived safely. We've arrived pretty much on time. No major screw-ups. Stopped where we needed to stop. Station's entries might have been a bit slow, but everyone got there in the end, and that was rather nice. Anywho, I've been Simulated Erk. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed the episode, and we'll be back soon for another episode Tuesdays and Thursdays across SimulatedErkGaming.com and also Simulated Erk on YouTube. Well done, that was a successful drive. Thank you very much. Hope you have enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to stay safe, stay behind the yellow line, and don't forget, tracks are for trains. See you later. Bye for now.